Oh, my fellow Americans, are we reaping our harvest of grief? Have we built our house on sinking sand? Why are we being ugly Americans?
Do we have some interesting things going on. I want to bring us all up to date of where we're at and what we can look forward to moving forward. This is truly interesting times. So we're going to talk about the people, that's us, the financial markets. You know, I've been talking about that because it affects the planet and it affects our homes, it affects everything. So we have to keep updated on that. We need to know what's going on with banks and what's going on with lending and what's happening in housing, what's going on in foreclosures and how we can fight back against that, defend. Loan modifications, have got some words of wisdom today from loan mods and some actions and lessons that we can learn, because I believe we've only begun to fight. I know it feels like forever, and it's been, you know, a year and a half or several years for some of you, and at least a year and a half for me, on specifically targeting foreclosures. That's okay. We can keep it up. Just keep pushing. Keep pushing. You don't have to spend your whole life. You got a life. You have to live. You have to make a living. But the fact is, we can keep updated. We can spend a few minutes a day. We can connect. We can try to do better and use our time wisely. So today, let's quickly jump into some summaries. And the very first thing I want to remind everybody of, every one of us around the world, it is all about the money. And it is not just some people have more and some people have less. It's about the currency, the money that we use as our medium of exchange. You know, that's the heart of the Great Transition. And I wanted to just start with this, because if you scroll down, I've done two things on the blog. One thing, I've listed all the categories. And so as you look down and you can see, G, bank fraud. Look at all the list of the bank frauds, and I haven't even identified the specific market fraud that they have done, like the interest rates, LIBOR, the currencies. I'll probably have to add those. But this is what I wanted to point out, and this is why you need to send this link everywhere, because it's all about the money. If we don't change the money, we will never win against foreclosure fraud. They'll just do it again. You can win your home. Someone else can get their house. We can have a smattering here and there of wins and fights, and a lot of people just sitting in their homes without paying loans, but not being able to get title back and be able to sell. And if we don't change our currency, we're stuck. So we must do that. Now, I wanted to point out these quotes. I've pulled a lot of quotes from a lot of sources, and these are key people, key comments, you know, presidents of our country that have made these statements. So send this out. Even if you just copy and paste these quotes, I don't care. Send them the link so they see the blog, so that they can see the list of fraud, because this is the heart of why we're fighting. This is why we're fighting so hard. This is why it's so hard. I hear from people all over the country now about how they've been cheated, and you know, it's just horrible, because individually they're chewing us up because they can, because they control the currency. So here you go. This is Rothschild. This is the founder of the House of Rothschild. In 1744, so he that was when he was born, died in 1812. So sometime in there, he said this: "Give me control of a nation's money, and I don't care who makes the laws." President James Garfield said, "Whoever controls the volume of money in any country is absolute master of all industry and commerce." Absolutely. That's how they steal stuff from us. They have easy credit, everybody gets stuck into debt, and then they pull back the money. You can't get a loan. Commercial can't get a loan, you can't refinance. So what happens? They foreclose and take the house, take the property. They win because they control the volume of money. Here's President James Madison. History records that the money changers have used every form, does this sound familiar, of abuse, intrigue, deceit, and violent means possible to maintain their control over governments by controlling money and its issuance. What more do we need? What more awareness do we need to know that this is the natural end result of letting the banks take control of creating money? We can, now listen, we can fix this. We can fix this overnight. We can take it back. All we have to do is change that game. But still, the solution is simple. Getting to that simple solution might be very difficult and a lot of work and pain and loss. But nevertheless, it's very simple. The solution is simple. Let's never forget that. And you've got to have, this is a quote, the modern banking system manufactures money, they mean the currency, out of nothing. The process is perhaps the most astounding piece of sleight of hand that was ever invented. Banks can and do, in fact, inflate, mint, and unmint the modern ledger entry currency. That's why we're in this tyranny. Here's President Abraham Lincoln. So here's the solution. Lincoln said it. The government should create, issue, and circulate all the currency and credits needed to satisfy the spending power of the government and the buying power of consumers. By adoption of these principles, the taxpayers will be saved immense sums of interest, and I might add, that go into the bankers' pockets and steal your life from you and your work and effort. He said when that happens, when the government has sovereign currency, true U.S. dollars, not Federal Reserve notes that we use as our currency, money will cease to be master and become the servant of humanity. Right now it's master. That's why it's tyrannical. And then, of course, here's a guy from the Atlanta Federal Reserve Bank who stated, Robert Hamphill, he said, we are completely dependent on the commercial banks. Someone has to borrow every dollar we have in circulation, cash or credit. If the banks create ample synthetic money, we prosper. If not, we starve. We are absolutely without a permanent money system. It is the most important subject intelligent people can investigate and reflect upon. It is so important that our present civilization may collapse unless it becomes widely understood and the defects remedied very soon. There's more comments. You can read them. Those are the ones that count. And those are the ones we need to send to everybody, every media, every elected official, every organization like a taxpayers organization, the Tea Party, the Chamber of Commerce, the AFL-CIO. I don't care. Send it to everybody because everybody, all the talking heads on TV, all the Hollywood, send this everywhere. Everyone is affected because of the elite few. We've got to look at everyone as being in the same boat. Because yes, there are differences on how much money some person has, and the poor don't have any. But the fact of the matter is we're all in this tyrannical structure. And we can stop that tyranny right now. That's the message that I'm going to be harping on, because it encompasses the foreclosure fraud, the interest rate fraud, the LIBOR fraud, the currency, the foreign exchange currency fraud. I mean, the toxic loans, the fact that they can buy off our governments, the fact that they have NSA spying on us. All of these agencies is because they have all the money, because they make it out of nothing. And we are just slaves. We really are. We are right now slaves to the money, our currency. When we stop being slaves is when we can really have our lives back and be in control. Now, I wanted to quickly update you on the people in the country, because this is one of the discouraging things And I want you to understand that I'm going to just read a couple of these, and you can look at these are the 19 surveys that theoretically prove a large chunk of our population is made up of totally clueless sheeple. But I'm telling you, I don't think they're quite as sheeple as they may say. The trouble is, a lot of people really are here. And so the question has become, are there enough people in the country that can join us to help make a difference? Again, we only need 3%, 5%, maybe even 10%. We don't need everybody. So don't let it bother you, but let's be aware. This is an awareness. I'm giving you a summary so that we know exactly what we're facing, so we know how best to use our time and to make these changes. Because the fact is, you know, we only have so much time in the day. I cannot do everything. You cannot do everything. But we can be smart about what we do to make it the most effective thing possible. So here's a couple of the things. You know, one survey found that 56% of Americans believe it's okay for government to track the telephone records of millions of Americans. And I tell you, I know, I'm confident. I haven't done the survey, but every time I talk to somebody about that, you know what they say to me? This is what they say. Well, I don't do anything wrong. And the answer is, what we need to push is, doesn't matter if you do anything wrong. They can frame you any way they choose. Then people step back. I say this. And then they go back, oh, I guess you're right. See, never thought about that, because they don't think that our government is not in the best interest of the people. They're still thinking, oh, the government's there to protect me, and we've got to change that mindset. No, they're not. They're there to set you up. They're there to steal your money. They're there to take your property. So that's how we fight this. And of course, the hypocrisy that under Bush, the Democrats, a significant portion, 2/3, considered NSA surveillance unacceptable, and yet under Obama, when it's even worse, only 34%. So check this hypocrisy. The people need to understand that they're being hypocritical. They're assuming that, you know, the bad stuff is with the other party. They've been brainwashed into the Republican and Democrat. So try to get them out of that brainwashing. These are the things that will really help make a difference. Okay, this is 29% of Americans believe that cloud computing involves an actual cloud. Okay, that's hopefully the older folks, but it's probably our generation, because I'm confident our kids don't think that. So spread the word, help your family, friends, and neighbors to get more technically alert and aware. The fact is, this is one I just wanted to share briefly. I've heard this before. We're the most doped up nation in the history of the planet. The Mayo Clinic found that 70% of all Americans are on at least one prescription drug. 70%. And 20% are on at least 5 prescription drugs. So just imagine what's going to happen when they can't get their drugs. Anyway, it is a statement, and I believe we need to push health and nutrition in other ways other than the drug culture. This is the drug culture for Americans, not illegal drugs, but prescription drugs. Here's another one that was a little worrisome. 48% of all Americans do not have any emergency supplies stored at all. And of course, over half right now agree with the statement it's necessary to give up civil liberties in order to make the country safe from terrorism. So we need to combat that. These things, these surveys identify what I would call hotspots. If we can do whatever we do to focus on changing a perception, for example, that you don't have to offset civil liberties for terrorism. They don't connect. The theft of civil liberties has nothing to do with stopping terrorism. We need to make that more clear in ways. So help us out. These are the things that we need to counteract the people in the country, the mindset, which will help wake them up. So, okay, here we go. Financial markets. They pulled $80 billion from bond funds, and this is just per month. And so here's a little chart, and these are the largest monthly outflows from bonds. You'll notice that it starts at 03 and it goes sort of backwards. It's weird. It doesn't really, I don't know why they didn't make this in any order. Maybe, oh, just by how much was taken out. Okay, not by year, but by the volume. And of course, the least amount, the most amount is current. So of course, in June, took out 80 billion. You'll notice the next closest amount of money that was ever taken out of the bond markets was in October 2008. 2010, 04, 99, 08. Anyway, bond markets are slumping and will continue to slump. People are going to take their money out. They're going to get their statements. Second quarter statements haven't hit the people's email box or boxes yet, email or mail. Okay, update on gold and other markets. Here's a comment. This was June 29. That was that was just Saturday. The whistleblower states during brutal takedown of the price of gold, there's no physical gold that's come on the market. In other words, they're draining reserves. Nobody's selling that has gold to sell. And in the process, of course, they're breaking the producers. So there's no physical gold turned up. So when you estimate we had 600 tons of capitulation, when you see the fact that we've had forced sales, producers have been forced to sell. And of course, it's already bankrupted some of the producers. I showed you some of those links on Friday, I believe. Australia and South Africa come to mind, where a couple of mines have already shut down. All projects are on hold. They can't afford it because the price of gold has been manipulated down. Here's a billionaire, Sprott. He's warning that this is going to crash the financial system. And this is where we got the $300 trillion derivatives collapse. He's warning that the global system is now in danger of catastrophic and complete collapse. He discussed the gold and silver markets, but what I really wanted to point out here is that Italy has already lost about 30% of its entire position in derivatives. And so that 30% over the $1 trillion of derivatives, those are the estimates, comes up with a $300 trillion loss. Now, the fact is, this it's a staggering number. Here's the point. When you have a 1% change in quadrillion, that's $10 trillion right there. Now, just as a backdrop and as a reminder, the total global domestic output annually, the GDP of the world is about $65 trillion a year. So 1% shift in the derivatives, interest on the derivatives, is 10 trillion. It's unimaginable, and let's never forget, let me remind you again quickly, just by what I'm saying, that the derivatives now, losses in derivatives for the banks in this country have super priority. They come first. Those losses get paid first out of your bank deposits, your retirement funds, any assets you have. So get them out of the bank. Can I be more clear? The mattress is way safer right now, at least while cash is king, but when cash is trash, it won't be either, because inflation is coming. Here's another article, unprecedented wealth destruction and volatility has now begun. And so they're talking about what market participants should expect is violent and unprecedented trading in key markets going forward. And so he's warned investors in the past, and so we need to pay attention. You may not be an investor, but this is going to hit you too. It's going to hit everybody on the world. So try to protect yourself. The Fed's rapid expansion of credit would cause U.S. economy to enter a period of unprecedented volatility between inflation and deflation. This would lead to violent moves in most markets, especially interest rate markets, and the time has now arrived. And what I want to point out on this article, because I read these things now with a very different view, as you might imagine, than just 6 months ago. Here is something they're saying, and I wanted to bring it to your attention. This person is writing, the Fed seems convinced that the U.S. economy is strong enough to withstand the negative effects from a global economic malaise. Despite the chaos that is brewing all over the globe, Ben Bernanke still provided the markets with a timeline for ending his QE program and predicted the economy will magically recover in 2014. Now listen to this statement. If that's the case, if our economy does magically recover next year, it'll be the first accurate forecast since the Federal Reserve was created in 1913. And this is what I wanted to say about this. By his own admission, every forecast has been wrong. So why is he depending on that? He's already telling us it's all been wrong, but now he still says the Fed seems convinced. When is he going to shift into everything they told us is always wrong? This is wrong too. They're doing it intentionally. When's he going to say, you know something? The Fed is against us. The Fed is lying to us, has lied to us forever since it was created, the last 100 years as of this year. And therefore, we know that they're trying to take our money. They're trying to break our markets. He's still thinking. He's been brainwashed that the Fed somehow is trying to be good for us and that we should trust what they say, even though he already says they've never said it right, ever. So this is the brainwashing. This is like there has not yet been in his mind an aha moment. We need to get these aha moments out to people saying, now look, and I will comment on this article after the show. That's the other thing. Let's start commenting on each and every article. I've commented already on some articles. They only have 3 or 4 comments. So my comment's going to be noticed. It'll be noticed by the people that write. That's what I'm commenting to. Write your comment back to the people that write these articles. Write to this guy. Get a whole bunch of us writing to everybody saying, wait a minute. When is your aha moment? The Fed is not against us, or for us. The Fed is totally against us. This is the point. This is the point. Send them a link, Great Transition, so they can see all those quotes. Send them the quotes. Send them the blog. We need to have these guys that we're reading their articles. They need to understand they haven't awakened. They have not yet really, honestly awakened. Once they're awake, then they will throw their lot in with the people too. So here you go. Paul Craig Roberts. I'm going to just scroll down so you can see who this guy is, because he's the father of Reaganomics and the former head of policy at the Department of Treasury. This is no slouch. He's a columnist. He was previously the editor of the Wall Street Journal. He's written a book, How the Economy Was Lost, The War of the Worlds, and it details why America is disintegrating. I wanted to bring this article to your attention because it explains the situation, but gives us some hope and a cool idea. So he's talking here about V is for Vendetta. It's a movie. We all probably ought to watch it. And the point is, it's about current America, the tyranny we're facing. In the end, in the movie, the people win. So that's good. Let's see what kind of suggestions are in the movie. But what I wanted to point out about the article is that he's taking Ecuador. It's all about Snowden, and yet it's not about Snowden. Ecuador, Snowden, the discussion has been he's going to seek asylum in Ecuador. And so what does one of our U.S. senators from New Jersey, Robert Menendez, do? He's Democratic chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, but he starts to threaten Ecuador. And so he says, he told the Ecuadorian government that he himself would do everything he could. Well, he said he would block. Can he do that? The import of vegetables and flowers from Ecuador if Ecuador gives asylum to Snowden. And that would cost Ecuador $1 billion in revenues. Now, we call this in our normal life extortion. This is extortion on the face of it. So the Menendez statement, as we go on the article, our government will not reward countries for bad behavior. And the writer says, whoa, that's ironic, because it equates bad behavior with protecting a truth teller and good behavior with betraying a truth teller. And the statement is also a lie. The government only rewards bad behavior. Yes, it does. And this gentleman, Paul, already knows it. He's on the inside. He's seen this. He's telling us this. Send this article out to people that don't really want to listen to, you know, fringe advocates and, you know, an Occupy activist. Somehow they're bad. This guy's an insider. Send him this link. And so the U.S. government consistently rewards those who conspire against the elected governments of their own countries, setting them up as dictators when Washington decides to overthrow the government, the elected ones. Now, what I love about it, the threat, the extortion threat, did not work. But the Ecuadorian president, Rafael Correa, beat Menendez to the punch, and he canceled the trade pact with the U.S. on the grounds that the pact was a threat to the sovereignty of Ecuador and to moral principles and was being used by Washington to blackmail Ecuador. Their words. So they canceled the pact. In other words, so what? We're not going to deal with terrorists. And they're looking at Washington, D.C. as the focal point of terrorism and blackmail and extortion. Ecuador doesn't accept pressure or threats from anyone, added the Communications Secretary Fernando Alvarado, who then offered, now listen to this, guys, let's go get it. They offered Washington, D.C., foreign aid to provide human rights training to combat torture, illegal executions, and attacks on people's privacy. What if we went to foreign governments and begged for foreign aid to help stop foreclosures and bring down the banks, stop them from their predatory ways? That would help this country, that would help their country, that would help the planet. What if we went and asked for foreign aid? Let's go there. We can't get money out of here. Let's go there. So that's an idea I'd love to pursue. Let me know what you think about that one. And so, of course, they're trying to stomp on Ecuador, and you can read about it. And here's another article, Obama and U.S. government slammed by Ecuador, and I wanted to just play just a little bit of the video.
Ecuador is defiantly resisting U.S. calls to reject Edward Snowden's asylum bid. On Thursday, the Ecuadorian government said it would waive preferential trade rights after U.S. officials suggested they could be revoked. In Washington, U.S. Trade Representative Michael Froman said the Obama administration will evaluate Ecuador's eligibility for trade benefits and review a petition calling for their revocation. Froman's comments came one day after Democratic Senator Robert Menendez said welcoming Snowden would severely jeopardize U.S. relations with Ecuador. In Quito, Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa said his country's dignity has no price.
All of a sudden, trade tariffs became an instrument of blackmail. Behave or leave the free trade movement. In the face of threats, insolence, and arrogance of certain U.S. sectors, which have pressured to remove the preferential tariffs because of the Snowden case, Ecuador tells the world, we unilaterally and irrevocably denounce the preferential tariffs. Our dignity has no price.
President Correa's government followed up with a dig at the Obama administration by offering to donate millions of dollars for human rights training in the United States on matters of, quote, privacy, torture, and other actions that are denigrating to humanity, unquote. Later in the day, Correa said Ecuador cannot evaluate Snowden's asylum bid until he's within Ecuadorian territory. Snowden is believed to remain in a transit area of a Moscow airport.
Let's go get the money. Let's go. Denigrating humanity? What's more denigrating than being dual-tracked and cheated out of your home? That's happening everywhere. Let's go. And what's really heartwarming? Two things. One is the surge for freedom is everywhere on the people. And we're going to find freedom in other places than the United States right now. We need to partner with every one of these countries and people and presidents. We need to unite worldwide. Number two, when Ecuador can poke their finger in Washington's eye, so can we. And Iceland did the same thing. They repudiated the bankers' loans. Ecuador, this is one reason that Washington doesn't like them. One of the articles talks about it. They repudiated $3 billion in loans that former people in charge of the country, elected officials, had made with the banksters. So the fact of the matter is, sovereign currency is the answer. And let's go down to Ecuador and let's tell them how that works if they don't already figure it out. And let's have them help us get it done here in this country. We can partner with anyone worldwide. That's the exciting part about it. We've got stand up for freedom activists all over the planet. That warms my heart. Now, just a quick article. John Rappaport wrote it. It's obviously fabulous. And the whole point is, what is the point of NSA spying and wiretapping? What he comes up with truly makes total sense to me, and that is extortion and blackmail. And he talks down here in the lower part of the article that the NSA is the elephant in the room, in the infested room called Washington, because it remembers everything. And this is, they secretly tap and try to get every bit of dirt on everyone that's elected, including judges. You'll see here all of the, this is so that they can force them into war, because war is how they make money. It's pretty much straightforward and simple like that. And so they have red-hot files on politicians' scandalous private behavior. They've gone after and spied on, and he knows that because he's had his hands literally on the paperwork. They went after high-ranking military officers, members of Congress, Senate and House, especially the ones on the intelligence committees and the armed services committees, and some of the judicial judges in the Supreme Court. Oh, and then of course, they went after Obama. The point is, when you blackmail somebody, then it's easier to get what you want. There you go. And so that's another answer. They can blackmail you. If they know everything you do and read all your email, then they can either find something or manufacture something to blackmail you. That's why we should be fighting back, and maybe that will help wake up the people. So, loans, housing, lending, the market. Here we go. You ready? Student loan interest rates doubled today. Elizabeth Warren, others in Congress have been trying to get that rolled back. No luck. And now they've adjourned for July 4. So the Stafford loans, this is government-insured student loans, at the current 3.4% interest rate, they set to expire on July 1, and then after that, it'll go up to 6.8%. So now we're going to burden our future with so much debt. They can't buy a house. They'll have trouble buying a car. They won't even, it's almost like a taking. We're going, and the fact is, when you start looking at the salaries and pensions and benefits of all the universities, it's like insane. They literally don't care. It's for their personal gain. They will punish the future of this country. We need to make those changes. I loved Elizabeth Warren when she said her solution was, well, gee, if the banks can get money from the Fed at let's see, what is it, 0.025%, a quarter of an interest a point a year, or even 3/4 of a point a year, even 1% a year. Why don't we give that to the students? Why can't they just have that? And see, we can fix this problem overnight, right? All these problems can be fixed virtually overnight when the people understand how. We change the currency. We have US dollars, we print a bunch, we pay off the Fed, we say we're using sovereign currency. Thank you very much, get out of here. We have public banks, we use that currency to fund our homes and our student loans at 1%. All that interest now flows back into the community, not into a bank or pocket. And so all the community benefits from that. It's very affordable. There's no reason to change the credit, because if the public bank suddenly decided, well, I don't want to have that much credit out there, it would hurt the community. So when credit remains stable and perhaps grows as industry and wealth grows and need grows, but there's not the contractions, then you and I have a stable economy that constantly breeds a better standard of living. And it doesn't just suddenly change the rules overnight and wipe out half our wealth or 100% of the wealth on some people's part. We can fix this. This is why I'm so harping on our own currency and public non-profit, if you will, financing, foundational financing with very, very low interest rates, and all that extra money of any flowing back into the community for the benefit of the public. It's public financing for the public. It's our right as humanity, and it's the right of every person on the planet in their country. The bankers stole that right, and that's why we have tyranny. So let's look at some more tyranny. Here's the Bank of America schemes, gee, what a shock, to evade settlement rules and pocket the cash. No kidding. The fact is, I've been talking about this since August, when it became evident, last August, it became very evident that the banks, we'll just take Bank of America, it's the classic example, they are all doing it, but you take Bank of America, they are playing what I call the corporation shuffle. Who holds the loan? So they're going to make all these corporations, Nested and other wholly owned subsidiaries. So let's never forget that Recon Trust, Foreclosure Mill, is a wholly owned subsidiary. Actually, it's a bank by Bank of America, wholly owned. Ocwen, wholly owned subsidiary by Bank of America. So B of A looks at these rules and goes, how are we going to get out of that? I got an idea. We'll just make a corporation. We'll set it over here. Wink, wink. We wholly own it. We'll sell them our loans, the rights to all the loans and loan mods. Boop. We'll sell them cheap. Who cares? Because we own this too, so what difference does it make? And we don't care. They're going to throw the shell of Bank of America away. That's why they're talking already. We showed you the article on Friday about B of A collapsing, Citibank collapsing, because as the mortgage-backed securities drop in value, then their cash reserves disappear, and they don't have the capital to continue. So they're talking to Wells Fargo and Chase and probably other banks. How are we going to, shove those assets into your books with no exchange of money? Like we did, like the FDIC already did with Countrywide and B of A. There was no money changing hands, which raises tons of legal questions, as we've already sort of hit on here and there, about the foreclosures. How can there be any harm if they never spent any money for it? How about that one? And so the fact is, B of A had Ocwen, and so they just sold off all the loan servicing and loan modification rights. We've already seen articles where, like an HSBC or whatever bank it was, GMAC, that they sold those rights, and then that new entity, Ocwen, even though it's a wholly owned subsidiary, they play like they're not. And they say, we can't do that agreement. You have to start over. And we're going to foreclose in the meantime. And so here you go. See, Green Tree, other servicing companies, NationStar and Ocwen have worse track records for customer service and respect for borrowers than B of A. Is it even possible? And so here you go. They're going to manipulate the records. They are going to put the loan payments into slush funds. They're going to basically lie, cheat, and steal to push everyone into foreclosure because that's how they make the most money. So it's a plan. It's exactly what they do. We've watched them do it full on. We've been aware of it. We can't stop it. And this is why the only way we're going to be able, really, to get the tyranny and the fraud out of the banking system is to shut down that banking system. But we need to have our own first. So let's set up our own. We can go over here and start playing in this game. And then we can shut those down with less harm to the people. And of course, as the banks change, here's NationStar saying, oh, we're going to honor B of A's settlement obligations. Yeah, right. And so if any of you actually do get something honored by NationStar, let me know, because I don't expect it at all. I believe this is a lie. Of course they're not. They're going to say that, but they're not going to do it. You have a loan mod with Bank of America, and they're transferring rights, servicing rights, 2 million loans now to NationStar. It was made January 31st, 2013, and I'm confident that many, many people who may have been in the middle of loan modification or had a valid loan mod, that's history, and they're going to be starting over. While the banks are in the turmoil, which just keeps owners trying to pant to catch up, so is California State. Oh, now we're going to consolidate agencies for the benefit of efficiency. And so they're consolidating, if you look at this, the Department of Corporations. So we've been talking about filing complaints against the corporations doing business in California. Now they're merging that with the Department of Business Oversight. And so, of course, these things are going to be reorganized and continue to operate with no glitches. Good luck to us, as everybody tries to change everything, and we're still trying to just get some justice. This is an update on foreclosures. It's not very nice, but we need to hear what it says. We need to hear it because we need to know the truth about what is going on.
We've all heard that the housing market is on the rebound, and there's plenty of data to back that up. But what does that mean in terms of foreclosures? Hi, I'm Jim Jelter at MarketWatch, and while the homes listed on the nation's hottest housing markets are seeing outright bidding wars, that doesn't mean everyone is buying. In fact, in some regions, foreclosures are once again on the rise. MarketWatch's Quentin Futrell has parsed the latest foreclosure data from RealtyTrack. He found that after hitting a 75-month low in April, foreclosures in the United States rose 2% in May. At the same time, repossessions by the banks jumped 11% last month, snapping a 5-month decline. Now, these numbers don't signal that the housing market is collapsing. Foreclosures so far this year are down 28%. That's due mainly to improved markets in Arizona, California, and Michigan, which were among those hardest hit when the market came unhinged 5 years ago. But that doesn't mean it's been an easy path toward recovery. For example, only 20% of those currently paying down mortgages own at least half the equity in their home. That's down from 21.7% at the end of 2012, a clear indication that the problem has not been solved, but merely delayed while the banks work through a backlog of financially distressed properties. So, looking at the data, which states topped the foreclosure list? Florida, one of the hot spots when the housing bubble burst. It's still a mess. It has the highest foreclosure rate in the country, with 1 in every 302 properties facing foreclosure last month. That's up 20% from April, it's up 12% from a year ago, and it's nearly 3 times the national average. Number 2, Nevada, another poster state for the collapse of the housing market. 1 in every 305 housing units is facing foreclosure. Maybe not too shocking when considering that 45% of Nevada's homes are still underwater. Number 3, Ohio, where 1 in 584 housing units were foreclosed on last month. The good news here is that that's down 27% from April. Number 4 was Maryland, where foreclosure filings rose 11% in May to 1 in 587 residential properties. That's up a staggering 134% from a year ago. And finally, number 5 on the list, South Carolina, where foreclosure filings hit 1 in 600 homes. The silver lining in South Carolina? Well, these homes will help replenish a shrinking pool of homes available on the market, which has been a factor behind rising home prices in the state.
Let me remind you that he made a false assumption right at the end. He's saying that these foreclosures will help alleviate the shrinking inventory. In other words, he's assuming that these foreclosures will be listed. They did not ever address in this article anywhere. It's like it's hidden, and this is the hidden secret. Remember, Fannie and Freddie alone have 4 million vacant foreclosures sitting empty on the market, and they are not listing them. We don't even know about the other banks, so I'm going to assume that they have at least a couple of million. We've got millions and millions of vacant foreclosed homes just sitting on the market. Many of them have been knocked down in places like Cleveland and Detroit. They've just mowed them down because they've gotten so vandalized and worth so little. But the fact is, there's still millions of homes sitting there with guys being paid, you know, as little as possible to run around and mow the yards every 2 weeks because of the, you know, you got the rules now that say the banks have to keep the yards mowed. So that's an issue. Right while they have all this hidden inventory, we're watching home prices go up, lack of inventory. Oh, and besides, I just did a quickie little analysis. I'll just bring that right here. Home sales volume change. I just threw a little spreadsheet together. I wanted to show you because just in these 5 counties right around where I'm at, and I could pull this information out very quickly. In Sonoma County, these are the home sales volumes. How many homes were sold in the first 6 months, first half, 2012 versus 2013? And what percentage of volume change has there been? And you'll notice that 4 out of 5 counties fell. The volume fell. Only 1 county in Marin did the volume go up. And we view Marin as basically a wealthy county. So the median has gone up. Most of their homes were not done with toxic loans, so they don't have fraudulent foreclosures. Let's never forget, fraud foreclosure comes off of a toxic loan. A toxic securitized loan led to fraudulent foreclosure. So if you didn't have any in your market, then you're not going to have as many foreclosures. So your house prices weren't going to tumble as much because the whole point was we're going to bubble with toxic loans and then we'll foreclose all of those illegally and we'll dump them on the market and that will push the pricing down. Now, what's interesting to me is that Solano County is like central city, like he was talking about Florida is the key place in the country of foreclosures. This is Solano County, like in Northern California. Southern California would be San Bernardino and Riverside. But Solano County just was completely devastated. I mean, they have years and years and years worth of sales of owners locked out of buying because they just kept for 70 or 80% of all of the listings would be foreclosures for several years. And so now they've had a 25% decline. And yet, couple that with what we heard in February, that news reporter saying that Vallejo, just the one city in Solano County has 1,000 vacant foreclosed homes sitting there empty. They're not listing them. So the point I'm trying to get across is they manipulate for their own gain. They don't care a hoot how bad it hurts. And in fact, like we're trying to get some of these guys that are writing these articles to wake up to the fact is they want it to hurt. I swear, I hope I'm wrong, but it makes natural and logical sense when you factor the fact that we've got all these the banks have all these vacant foreclosures, they're not listing them, foreclosures are up, bank takings are up like 11%, so they're taking more and more homes, they're shoving them into their little inventory, holding them, wink, wink, watching all the contractors start to build because demand is out there now. And so now we're going to re-break all these contractors because they're going to borrow money. And then they're going to go out and they're going to start building. And then they're going to start banking on sales. And then when the time is right, we're going to just dump these and we'll ruin their market again. We'll break these guys again. We'll teach them. We'll take their money and we'll take all their land. And all those houses that they build, they can't sell now because suddenly prices have fallen. This is the scary manipulation that I see happening in various places in the market. Just thought I'd bring you up to speed on that. Now, this one, oh yes, here's an article. This is a sarcastic article. This came to me as an agent in my email, and it says, oh gee, experts doubt that any mortgage rate rises are gonna, hurt housing recovery. Are you kidding me? I cannot even believe that they would actually say that. How stupid can you get? Surging mortgage rates may have little effect on the housing market. Surging mortgage rates, interest rates, when interest rates climb, people can pay less. They can pay less for the property because they live on the monthly payment. It is a no-brainer. As prices surge and they can't afford it, more and more of the people are locked out. So it ruins the buy side of the supply-demand. No demand hurts the market. I don't know who those experts are. They are stupid and should never be called an expert. They're an expert in doublespeak and lying to get the people suckered into buying something or suckered into selling. Whatever their goal in the back, I don't know what their hidden agenda is, but there's something going on because that's stupidity. And this article is a very good article. I want you to take some time afterwards. If you're interested in the real estate market at all, take a look at some of the charts. I'm going to go through them fairly quickly, but this is welcome serfs to the new housing system and how cash investors are distorting the housing recovery and taking over the primary vehicle for wealth for Americans. And this is true. It historically, up until 2008, 2006, because then they started the foreclosure crisis in 07, and we started to feel the effects in 08, and it's just been down, 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 down since. And everything now is manipulated because the banks play such a huge part. They have such significant percentage. Either they're short sale negotiators, they're loan modification people, or they're foreclosure people. So when you add all that together, it's still a significant portion of the market, almost across the United States. And so what's happening here is it used to be that people would buy a home, and over time the home would gain in value, and then they would, as they retired, they would sell. They would have some equity that they would be able to buy an inexpensive home, maybe in a less expensive market, and be able to have some monies to live on, a cushion. I call it the classic retirement plan. Everybody wants it. It's just, that's how it used to work. And now they're talking about how cash investors are distorting it. No kidding. Speculators are essentially the largest players in the game. These are very, very true. The wealth gains in housing are largely distorted because of the investor entrance into the game, the cash entrance. He also talks about the scary part that I've been mentioning and harping on, and that is many investors, as prices go up, as an investor, a normal response is, it's too expensive, because an investor is not going to live there. They want to make money on it in one of two ways. Either they're going to rent it for income or they're going to flip it for cash gain. That's what investors do. And sometimes it's very helpful because the property's in such horrible condition, nobody will buy it, no lender would lend on it, so the investor buys it cheap, hopefully, goes in, fixes it up, and is able to resell it. So that's not a flip to me. That is a rehab resell. And that brings more equity back into the market of normal buyers. There's nothing wrong with that. Without that, these houses would just sit there and be, drags on the value of the neighborhood. But the fact is, as prices go up, as rates go up, as investors cash look at other options like CDs, they can get a better interest rate in return. They're going, I don't want to do that work anymore. The houses are too expensive. I'll wait till they come down. As they back out of the market, prices are going to decline. I love this chart because it shows the home ownership rate for the United States. And so here you've got the high in 2005-ish, just before that, at 69%, and now you've got the home ownership rate about 62%. Now, he's saying that this chart, well, that actually the chart says about 66%, but he's saying it would be 62% if you factored in all the people sitting in their homes for free. They're not paying the loan, they've not been evicted, they've not been foreclosed, they're just sitting there. And truly, there's a lot of people that are sitting there. They don't have any equity, so the bank doesn't want it, the people don't want it. I mean, what are we going to do? We'll just sit here until something happens. I call that limbo land. So we have a lot of people in limbo land. And then they're talking about equity. Is there equity in the property? And he's talking about equity, how they compare equity with a cash buyer. When they pay cash for a property, they have 100% equity just like that. When a borrower buys a property, let's say they put 5% down, they only have 5% equity. So when you're talking about equity as an amount, then it would take, 20 times the borrowers with 5% to equal 100%. And so when you have all this cash going in there, it distorts the equity figures. It's a very good point. He's talking here about the foreclosures. He's saying this is U.S. recessions, households and nonprofit organizations. These are the ones that have loans. He said there's only 5 million completed since the crisis hit. Other numbers that we've had, 8 million. Never forget that whether it's a foreclosure or a short sale, either one of those, the net effect on the person, the owner, is identical. They've ruined their credit, they've lost their equity, they've lost their down payments, they cannot get a loan, they're booted out of the house. So even though it's not technically a foreclosure with notice of default and all of those other things, recorded documents, if the person gives up and either does a deed in lieu or a short sale, the net effects are the same, and I don't believe they're counting that in this chart. They're talking about the 1 million more renter households. Yeah, because everybody kicked out of the house has to live somewhere if they can afford it, and so they're renting. And so what this market shows is that the for sale is climbing and those that have sold are falling. And so you're seeing inventory start to increase and sales start to reach a ceiling. So the markets are changing. This is an update on how the markets are changing. And the idea, I love this statement, the idea that somehow banking bailouts were good for families is completely false. It's been proven false. And ultimately these distortions hurt families, every last one of them. They never in this article talk about the fact that all of these foreclosures on every securitized and toxic loan are fraudulent. They are all created and done with fake, forged documents. So where's the justice in that? Where's the restitution? No comment. And I want to focus on that myself because that is the point. We now have case law proving that this is what they've done. And this is the push we need. And you got to remember, the banks are going to be gone. They're already talking about shoving B of A and Citigroup somewhere else, getting rid of the landscape is changing. And I've said to people over the last year and a half, yeah, okay, well just imagine that all the people, a million, let's just take 1 million people in the country, discovered that their foreclosures were fraudulent, so they went into court to sue. And let's imagine that the court said, yeah, okay, right, they're fraudulent. Okay, so get treble damages, or a house, or something, but who's going to pay? The banks are going to be gone because they can't pay. They'll be gone. So it's going to be what is it going to be is the question. And one of the things I've been saying, let's tap into that vacant home foreclosure reservoir that the banks are taking. You know, they're just hanging on to these houses. Let's disperse those houses among the people that lost their home illegally. It's a thought. Just put it out there. Now, we wanted to talk about, just before we close here, a couple of things that you can do in foreclosure defense, because everyone is fighting to keep the home. A lot of you are, or know family, friends, and neighbors that are doing this. So again, I want to focus and emphasize. Here's another article from Neil Garfield on his website, and you have to argue facts. You have to demand facts. Whether you are in a qualified written request, if you will, pre-legal format where you're just sending papers back and forth and demanding things and getting stuff back, or whether you're in court, the fact is you must forget the paper trail, forget all that stuff, and let's look at the money, because the money trail is facts. Did money transfer? Was there a money transfer? If so, show me that transfer. That's what they ask you to do if you're getting a loan, by the way. This is in reverse. Whenever you want to apply for a loan, you have to prove every penny now in the account. If you're going to get a gift from somebody, you have to prove that that money is in their account and that they're giving it to you. You have to prove your income. Every penny now the banks are making you prove. So let's turn the tables and make them prove every transaction, every money. So this is what is happening, and this is why I've been saying things like a loan modification is illegal because they don't own the loans. And this is part of the problem. And I do understand people desperate to keep the home, don't have any other leverage, cave in and take a loan modification in the effort to maintain the house. But in the end, the facts are these. Just like he's saying, that modification experts are criticizing what we're saying because that would jeopardize their business plan. And I understand that. But this is part of the fallout of the fraud. If you've based a business plan on bank fraud, then I'm sorry, expect that to sort of blow up in your face. Because when the people figure it out, and when we have case law to prove it, the loan mod experts will probably be pulled up into the lawsuits also. That is the nasty conclusion. Maybe, maybe not, but if it were me, if I had been told by a loan modification company that, like NACA, that this is legal and this will be a loan mod and this is what you're going to be getting, and then I found out later that lender with NACA as the front end actually didn't own the loan, actually lied to me, actually it's a theft, trust me, my attorney, if I hired one, would be recommending that I sue everybody in sight. So I would be suing the bank and the Fannie and Freddie and probably the FDIC because they're involved, and NACA and everybody. So the loan mod experts don't want this out either. Please understand that. They don't want the truth because their business model won't withstand the truth. It'll break up with the truth. So yes, it gives them the willies to think that they're participating in a fraud or enabling a fraud when they modify a loan with someone who doesn't own it. And that's what loan modification companies are doing. That is the utter unvarnished truth. And I know people may not like me to say it, but that is the truth. So lately, Neil is saying that articles that they've been discussing here on his website have been discredited by these modification companies. And it is not true, because the facts are these. Either the foreclosing party, the modifying party, or the party accepting the short sale owns the note or not. And if they don't, then every one of those things, foreclosing, modification, or short sale, is fraudulent. And so these are the facts. If they didn't pay for the funding of the origination of the loan, if they didn't pay for the acquisition of the loan, and if they didn't acquire the servicing rights to the loan, The lack of standing, that's a legal doctrine, is complete. The non-ability to submit a credit bid at auction is complete. And I got an email from someone last week. Truly, some of these topics are fairly complicated when you actually look at all the pieces and parts moving, but the summary is very simple. And that is virtually all of the bank takebacks at foreclosure at the auction sites in all of our counties nationwide are illegal. They do not have the authority to credit bid because they don't own the note. But they're doing it anyway. And entities of these banks and other shell corporations are going out and credit bidding and taking these houses back, and it's all illegal. Every last part of this is illegal. Now, the question, okay, that's fine. Now, how do we get restitution and justice? And that is part of the problem. And I'd like to have some time and maybe take a session, a show, to really focus on some of these fraudulent pieces of the puzzle so that everyone understands them a little better, or maybe do a foreclosure workshop on that piece of the puzzle. Because the more we understand, the more clear our eyes are, the more we can snag more and more people into going, what, this is bank fraud? And the more we can start pushing our message of release and justice and equality for all, and that is changing the currency and changing the way we do our financing. Don't allow this to happen. So I wanted you to have that article so that you could read that, and also to incent you, to motivate you, no matter what you're doing, to demand the money, demand proof of the transaction. Oh, you own this note? Show me where you paid for it. Send me proof of payment. Let's start doing it. And in fact, this is really, really powerful. I wanted to share just briefly, and then we'll go into probably another foreclosure defense workshop on it, because I get this stuff from people all over. It's really great. Thanks, guys. But I want you to see this. These are the 10 things you must do if you receive, or your neighbor receives, a notice of default and about to lose the house. And the number one is loan mods are not a remedy. They are not a remedy. You must keep good records. You need to retrieve all the records, all the payments. And now I'm going to add to that all of the money transfers to prove that they even own the note. You must do the accounting of your loan. One audit sample by a big accounting firm of the bank involved with this particular person's note showed 100% error rate. Okay, so check it out. If you fall into default and receive a notice, now it's time to demand information, send another qualified written request. If they have MERS, if you have MERS on your deed of trust, they talk about how to go in there and how the MERS records may contain errors, who's the investor or lender. All of these kinds of things are important. And I'm going to work over these steps with this person, and then I'd like to put together another summary. This would be like the 10 steps of once you really start being in default, you got to notice the default. Okay, now look at these things and let's make sure you do this checklist. Pull the courthouse records. This is called, I have a workshop already, analyzing your recorded documents. Go to the courthouse, get all of these records, pull them out of the courthouse. File numerous complaints, obviously, because that's the OCC, and of course we already know that the agencies in the federal government just run interference. SEC runs interference for that bank fraud, fraudulent work on the part of the banks in the SEC, and drug money laundering and stuff like that. Oh geez, we don't want to put anybody in prison. And so the OCC is running interference for foreclosure fraud, but that doesn't mean you can't file a complaint. You can keep filing. And send a cease and desist warning letter. She sent me one. It's very simple. We'll discuss that. I want to have a chance to work these over with her. File a Freedom of Information request. How to find out about the U.S. Treasury TARP funds, government activities, and payouts to banks. And then she's commenting that attorneys, she says, don't hire one. I can't advise you. But her point is well taken. They're often super expensive, from $400 to $500 an hour. Most attorneys will not take on a large bank. She had over 10 attorneys turn her down. Now that sounds accurate, because I've got tons of people telling me, no attorney in the county would take me. I've interviewed everybody. I've had 10 or 12 or 13 or, pick a number, turn me down. Whoa, we don't want to do that. And then she's recommending consider filing your own lawsuit. Again, I cannot recommend, and I'm not sure I personally could even do something like that. But nevertheless, these are comments well taken and would allow you to think about the defense of your home. And she's saying, here's some other footnotes, the California Bill of Rights, Homeowner Bill of Rights, and I still have yet to start really ramping up my lawsuit spreadsheet so that you can find out, no matter what state you're in, lawsuits that you can sort through that are getting decisions on behalf and in favor of homeowners, so you can look at the pleadings and you can quote lawsuits and to justify the pleadings in your suit. That would help simplify a lot of the drafting and make them stronger. And she says, now don't ever forget, this is the back office, this is the insurance, this is the fact that the loan has already been paid. And she says many mortgage notes were hedged by the insurance company AIG. The commercial paper was backed up by a no-way-to-fail insurance policy which paid out in multiples. This is why I say the banks have been paid 15, she says even up to 30 times. These are the facts. Insurance has already paid the loan 15 to 30 times, so why are they taking your house? Why are they taking your loan? And so she says, in her case, her note was sent out in early 2007 as a securitization titled Synthetic Real Estate Investment, SREI, and it was backed by a put placement of insurance by AIG. When the investment fell into a bracket of non-performing, AIG kicked in and paid out the credit default swap. That is the point. These loans have already been paid. This is why I say things like, once a person defaults in 60 days when insurance kicks out, the bank, the servicer, should be sending back to the owner a full reconveyance. Oh, the loan's been paid, thank you very much. We already made our killing off your house, so good luck with your house now. You own it free and clear. And that's the truth. That's what should be happening and is not. Because they've discovered if they just steal a house, then they get that too. And I wanted to do one more quick thing. These are some action ideas. This is action against the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which action itself is fabulous, and we all need to fight that, because basically the TPP will be putting multinational corporations above governments. They'll be able to sue the government for, gee, I lost money on that market trade and it was your law that made it, so I'm going to sue you. That's what TPP does. So we need to fight that and stop that. But what I also wanted to point out, they have the steps. This is how you can get active. And they have a strategic plan. And so the first phase is to educate and mobilize. And the second phase is to switch focus to influencing members of Congress. And so they talk about how they're doing that. And then this third phase is to defeat with major action. So this would be like marches in the street, in DC and also in the home districts. Solidarity actions, they're calling them. Now, what I really liked about this is down in the last paragraph, it said, since the Battle of Seattle, the World Trade Organization has had an impossible time moving forward, as was seen in the failure of the Millennial and Doha rounds of the World Trade Organization, WTO. We also stopped the free trade area of the Americas and the multilateral agreement on investment. And at least 14 other corporate trade agreements have not been completed because of widespread public opposition. That's hopeful. That is so hopeful. Don't you get it? We can do that too, because changing the currency, changing the funding is not really just about deadbeat homeowners, and you know I'm being sarcastic about that because a lot of people don't want to hear that. They don't want to talk about foreclosures. They want to just think it's gone. It's too scary and difficult, and the horror stories of the people is too uncomfortable. I don't want to hear anymore. But shifting the positioning into where this is a benefit to the people and focusing on all the fraud of the banks, pick one. They're all the same, and they all come out of the same source. So we cut them off at the source. We can do this. It's very hopeful. So these are good action plans. I want to follow the concept of the action plan. This is what we need to be doing to push through sovereign currency and financing of the public's needs by public low-cost institutions, low interest rate, so that we can actually build a new economy. That's the only way we're ever going to get jobs back. That is the only way. And if you think there's some other way that we're going to get jobs back, then take off your rose-colored glasses and start looking at what we're really facing. They're ruining our markets. They're stealing the wealth. They've stolen the wealth of the people in the homes. They're now continuing to do that by the bank takings are now up 11%. The bank's going to continue to take the real estate. Are you kidding? They want the real estate. Boom, boom. They're going to take the wealth in the bond markets. They're already cheating in LIBOR, currency, all of the manipulations. They're going to take everybody's wealth. As soon as the more derivatives are shaky in this country, they're going to take the bank accounts, take our retirement accounts, take any money that you have. So let's protect ourselves by trying to stop those actions, but inputting new growth ideas. Thanks, guys. I got to sign off. I know that it's been a really good Monday. It's sort of a real mixed blessing. And the silver lining, we have to just keep focused on the silver lining because a lot of the stuff that's coming out is now pretty scary. And it'll be okay. In the end, it'll be okay. Remember, no gain, no pain. No pain, no gain. But the whole idea is to remain as intact as possible so that we can build a new paradigm. I'm here with you. Thanks, guys, for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.
It's time to wake up and get with the movement. Hear the message in the music now. We can fight back, or we can lay down, or beat back the bank attack and stay proud. They got bailed out, we getting sold out. Some living underwater in their own house. They hear the word foreclosure, they get scared and think it's all over. But nah, the fight just begun. It ain't gonna be easy, but it must be won. Cause Bank of America's bad for America. Congress held hostage, they kidnapped the treasurer. This ain't the dream in the land of America, but we could change that if we stand up together. Demand something better than the status quo. We elect, they neglect, then they have to go. We gon' beat back the bank attack. We gon' beat back that bank attack. We gon' beat back the bank attack. We gon' beat back that bank attack. Set up with the people, yeah, and down with the bank, those greedy banks. Set up with the people, yeah, and down with the bank, those dirty banks. Yeah, it's capitalism, political arcade. Stop the evictions, we picket and blockade. March and rally for social justice. Forged signatures got the robo busted. Do the right thing now, reduce the principle. Job growth, increase residuals. We're solidified, can't divide and conquer. When we fight, we win. The pride to prosper. With people power, we equal the power. Civil disobedience to veto the dollar. Close our bank accounts, oppose their policy. Loan mod programs don't work, it's a lottery. So what do we do when the banks attack? Stand up, fight back. Yeah, and we don't want no cash for keys. We want to enter this catastrophe rapidly. We gon' beat back the bank attack. We gon' beat back that bank attack. We gon' beat back the bank attack. We gon' beat back that bank attack. Set up with the people, yeah, and down with the bank, those greedy banks. Set up with the people, yeah, and down with the bank, those dirty banks. Fannie Mae, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. It's pain for the many, profits for the few. Wells Fargo, we're coming for you. Get your voice back, tell your story. Yell out, this is city life territory. We got the right to the city, vida urbana, life in the city. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Stimulus pack, first class Bora Bora. Meanwhile, we staring in the eye of the storm. Earthquakes, hurricanes, trying to hold on. But U.S. Bank, we're here to prove what? We shall not be moved. Only a judge can evict you. You wanna fight for your home? Then we'll fight with you. Beat back the bank attack. We gon' beat back that bank attack. We gon' beat back the bank attack. We gon' beat back that bank attack. Set up with the people, yeah, and down with the bank. Those dirty banks. Set up with the people, yeah, and down with the bank. Those greedy banks. Those dirty banks. The bank attack. Those greedy banks.